see.
It should be all right.
Let's see. Looks like
I'll put full screen mode. Run it from there.
People can't complain about more content.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They're
The audio check.
They're not allowed to complain about more content.
I'm muting myself. I'm ready to go.
Okay, let me just double.
Okay.
Mic check 1 2 1 2.
Yeah,
Audio
solid.
check.
All right, it looks like we are going live. I got a little something prepared to get us going for this here.
Audio check.
They're not allowed to. I don't know if
That's hot.
I don't think you guys are gonna.
I'm muting myself. I'm ready to go.
Okay, I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to.
Okay.
Mic check 1 2 1 2.
Yeah,
solid.
Go. All right, it looks like we are going live. I got a little something prepared to get us going for this here.
Audio check.
I don't know if
That's hot.
I don't think you guys. There we go. Just needed to mute everything so I'm not hearing myself in. Welcome everybody. Amped Gaming doing a little tournament report. I got a theme song, but I don't think
Some chat.
I think if I play the theme song, I don't think that you guys are gonna hear it. So I'll figure that out.
I'll just chill. We'll be in silence.
Okay.
It'll be all right. A very soft background sound. Like one note. The double voices.
I gotta do this way because we're not sponsored, right?
Oh yeah. Sweet. Yeah, it's funny. No, I mean, yeah, because you're running it through OBS, right? That's where you're putting the music from. That's sick. Yeah. Yeah, there's some like lag time on YouTube, right? So this won't necessarily come up on time. Ooh. All right. Sweet.
Okay.
And Final Fortune, which has been incredibly difficult to test because if you have access to either of the first choices, you don't want to play the second choice.
All right.
Yeah.
Cancer Goer is so good though.
All right, we are
Protects you from Bowmasters, man.
We are live now. We're doing tournament report. This is our first time doing this here at Amp Gaming. We got the fun crew here, the grinders on the team. Yeah, so
we try.
new. If you guys like it, leave us a comment, message, let us know. We got all the lists, the deck lists are in the description. This tournament was put on by Fire and Dice. If you're in Southern California, check them out. I put the link for their Facebook in there because their website isn't up to date. I don't know what's going on with that, but you can check them out on Facebook, and they always post up when they have the tournaments. So they've kind of been one of the new mainstays in the Southern California scene as far as CEDH tournaments. So big thanks to them for hosting the tournaments and continuing to do it and having good prizes and a good environment. Check them out. But yeah, so MrScottyBaker here. I was on Tivit for the tournament, and let me see, was there any... I was trying out a couple cards. Right now I'm playing, I've got Intuition in there, and I don't know if that's good or not. I've been just trying it out. I didn't see it all tournament, so it didn't come up. I'm
a fan.
I saw Notion.
Yeah, I love Intuition lines.
I saw Notion Thief, another card that's always kind of in and out. Didn't play it because somebody had a Bowmaster, so that was a thing. So yeah, Wayne, what were you on?
Hey guys, it's Wayne. Boros_Armory on Moxfield on the Instas. We were on Ballista edition. The only tournament ready thing that we got going on right now, but this week we're going to be brewing a little bit. But yeah, Infinite Mana, Walking Ballista. The only spicy tech that's in the flex spot right now is Apple of Eden. Using that to see if we can eat a counterspell, honestly, is usually what it does. But, you know, who knows? One of these days, maybe I'll win it with Oracle and be like the rest of you big boys.
Okay. Curtis,
That's funny.
What were you doing?
Yeah.
I was on what lately has been, I guess, my signature deck, which is Blue's Clues, Stranger Things Boys, commonly mistaken as off-brand Blue Farm, which is one of its strengths. One of its strengths actually is that you're able to play with the same color pie and a lot of the toolkit that Blue Farm has available to it, but not necessarily get hated out or have people be like, "Oh shit, it's Blue Farm. I gotta watch out," you know. So it kind of flies under the radar a little bit sometimes, which is cool. As far as stuff we're testing in the deck, this deck has recently kind of turned up the heat a lot in the speed department. It was a little bit more mid-rangey pre-MH3, and post-MH3, we're on Necropotence in addition to Ad Nauseam and all that sort of stuff, and then more recently Necrodominance. And if you have double necros, then you might as well have double payoffs. So for a sort of redundancy of Born Upon a Wind, we have Valley Flood Caller, which is also the inspiration for my new deck list title, which is Flood Caller. I hardly know her. But and then for redundancy of Final Fortune, we have Chance for Glory. So we have an extra, take an extra turn, win or lose the game spell, and an extra flash speed enabler, one of which came up very relevantly in one of my games that we'll talk about a little bit later. And that's what I got going on. It's a fun 4-color deck. It does the usual things you'd expect in those colors and has some fun low-to-the-ground creature-based combos from the zone as well.
Mm-hmm. Can't kill Crumb if there's no Crumb, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
From
right on.
I can do it in my heart though, so same thing.
Sick, dude. Well, as you can tell, I competed in the tournament as well. What's up? I am CutFlow Kev, also known as Kevin. I play my main. I mean, Heliod's been doing pretty well for me. It's just one of the decks that I'm pretty familiar with. I like piloting it. It's a weird deck where some people don't see coming, but it's pretty telegraphed. So I've like kind of tailored this deck to have a little bit more like mid-rangey stuff. You know, the deck does best when I'm playing against like Blue Farm, you know. If I'm playing against somebody that draws a lot, that's typically where it's at. I don't run that many wheels, which is cool because wheeling isn't great. And seeing how fast the meta is nowadays is it's just you're kind of handing the next person the game if you wheel. Like I don't know. It's just a cool deck. I've been enjoying it, and flash speed is fun. And yeah, I mean, oh we have a crazy game for that. Yeah, that was what maybe our like round 2 or something.
All right. Well,
But yeah, I mean, I was overall happy. Yeah, I mean,
talk about flash speed. How was your round 1, Kevin?
oh, dude, it was fast. Yeah. Dude, I gotta buy. Yeah, yeah, boy,
Awesome.
gotta win.
gotta buy. All right.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I didn't even check in. I totally forgot to go up to the guy and tell him like, hey, like I'm here. So when the tourney started, they were like, hey, we're like waiting on somebody. So if somebody's late, like just like kind of wait on them. We'll give you a couple extra minutes. And then they just said the name, and I'm like, oh, here.
All right. Well, my round 1, I was lucky enough to share with Curtis, which was good for him.
Ooh,
Spoiler alert. I had the first seat, and I kept what I felt was a kind of like a medium hand, safe hand, like my first 7. I had like a Force of Will and a Mana Drain and 2 lands and something else. And for me, a lot of times, like Mana Drain is a game plan for me because, you know, turn 2, I get 2 blue mana. I cast a Mana Drain on something that costs 3 or more. Go to my turn, untap, drop a land. I have 6 mana, cast Tivit. The game starts rolling. It didn't happen because I never got my 3rd mana source. So I had to do other stuff that wasn't casting Tivit that was kind of interacting with the game, but in the end it didn't work out for me because Curtis was in the pod. I'll just say the one other thing that kind of happened
Curtis.
there from my perspective was I know Curtis tried to get a very early Ristic Study out, and I Force of Willed it, and then he was able to counter my Force of Will, And I think that was kind of the story of the game, at least how I saw it. But I'll let you take away the rest of the round 1 talk, because it was kind of your game more than it was my game.
Sure. So, like Scotty was saying, newsflash, early heuristic study is really good. Just in case anyone didn't know about that. Cool tech. So as I played a heuristic study, which Scotty tried to counter, and I interacted with. Nadu was already kind of getting set up, and the counter I had was a red elemental blast, but Nadu is not down yet. So I tried to politic Scotty into not countering my heuristic study, and he made the decision to counter it anyway. So I defended the counter, which was honestly that was kind of a questionable play. I wanted the early heuristic because it's good, but I also maybe should have saved that interaction for Nadu. So Nadu comes down, doesn't have any targeter enablers yet for that turn, and kind of does the thing. And then Tyam is the other deck in the pod. Tyam starts building a pretty typical Tyam Staxy board state up, plays an Eidolon of Rhetoric that slows the game way down, which is bad for me because Eidolon of Rhetoric means not as many spells cast, not as many draws on the heuristic. Also gives Scotty a chance to catch up because the game is slowed down.
Well, actually,
a fair bit.
It hurt me because I believe I had a demonic tutor in hand, and it made it so that I couldn't really use the demonic tutor how I wanted to. Or I actually never, I don't think I ever cast that demonic tutor because it was sitting in my hand because I had 2 mana, and it would have just been me tapping out to cast a demonic tutor and passing the turn instead of holding up interaction, where I would have normally been able to cast the demonic tutor and then used whether it was a mana crypt or a jewel lotus, or like at least done something with it, as opposed to just tapping out and passing the turn. And so that actually really kind of like set me back and didn't give me a chance to do what I needed to do in that game.
Can't push for that jeweled lotus, huh? Yeah, that's what it. Yeah,
I did. So the Nadu got down. They got down the Shuko, and I mana drained their Nadu, and then that was the 3-mana spell that I countered went to me, and I didn't have that second land, so I think I cast. Well, I cast Karn, the Great Creator. And
yeah, so
that was me trying.
So this is Scotty's big play.
Yeah.
So Scotty's big play is Scotty drops Karn, the Great Creator, and I'm like, man, this is really turning off like the almost everything I'm trying to do here. But Scotty drops Karn and then turns Nadu's Shuko, which they got off of a Urza Saga, into a creature, so it can no longer do Shuko things. So then Nadu's kind of turned off for a second, and then so this Karn's is really shutting me down. But at this point in the game, on top of the heuristic that I'd been maintaining, I have a Bowmasters and a clone of a Bowmasters with a Phantasmal Image. And I draw our old reliable Wheel of Fortune and cast the Wheel of Fortune to put a potential 42 damage on the stack, and then have almost 50-50 beat stick on my side. And obviously this is a pretty spicy play. So there's a big fight over that. No one can counter the wheel. Phantasmal Image Bowmasters sticks around, but the original gets removed. And then the wheel goes off. So I get 21 damage. I remove the problematic creatures and then shoot the rest of it at Scotty's face. Sorry, buddy. But I needed to get rid of the Karn.
You weren't sorry at all.
I needed to get rid of the Karn to do what I needed to do. So I shoot the rest of Scotty's face and then swing the big orc army at him. Scotty's out. It's just me and Tyam. That was one I needed to get rid of. Me and Tyam and Nadu. That was one I needed to get rid of Karn to win. And 2 was I could tell, to be honest, that the other 2 players were not as skilled a player as our friend MrScottyBaker here. So I was like, I'm pretty sure I can outplay these guys. And so Nadu manages to top deck a Lightning Greaves and is kind of back in business on Nadu, but still is under the Eidolon of Rhetoric, so we're still at one spell a turn. And then, so gets a total of 4 Nadu triggers. I think their last trigger, their fourth trigger, hits Talon Gates of Madara. And Talon Gates ETB hits, and they're going to phase out the Eidolon of Rhetoric and be completely unlocked. So I'm like,
Such a
oh
good
man,
land.
this is
Such a good land. Oh,
such a good one. Really amazing card. So I'm like, this is a spicy meatball. Like, what are we going to do here? So I have a bunch of open mana now that Karn is gone. And I, in response to the ETB of the Talon Gates, where they've already cast the Lightning Greaves as their spell for turn, I cast a Vampiric Tutor and I Vamp Tutor for ad nauseum. And get Ad Naz on top of my deck. Then they tap out to cast a Spellskite after the Eidolon is gone, and can't pay for the Rhystic Study. So I draw the Ad Nauseum and then respond to the cast of Spellskite by casting Ad Nauseum. I Ad Naz down to like 5 or 6 life, and my last card that I got off of Ad Naz is Valley Flood Caller.
Yeah,
So
that's so
and
funny. Yeah, I remember.
sometimes you get it, man. Sometimes you get it.
yeah,
Yeah, what's
right.
funny is like I remember when I was like walking around in my bag, right? I saw the idol and I was like, all right, this is gonna be a slugfest. 10 minutes in, it's gonna be a long game. So like towards the end of the round, I start walking around and I see like there it is, like just popping off the Adnas, and you were debating hitting that last card, and that last card was the Flood Caller, and then you're like sat there and thought about it. You're like, maybe you should probably stop here. But yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
I get the Flood Caller. I flash in the Flood Caller. Then I have a few I have after the Flood Caller, I have I think like 1 or 2 mana, like not a lot. So I use a red land that was untapped to cast Underworld Breach, and because there's a Lotus Petal in my graveyard from earlier in the game that I know is there. And so the breach lands. Also, I should add at this important detail. Nadu had a evolved Polywog Prodigy, so Nadu's drawing off of these casts that are the 1-drop casts. So I land the breach, and then the first thing I do is I escape Lotus Petal and then escape Silence. So that way, like the only thing I have to worry about is like 2 draws from Nadu, and then I'm like hopefully safe, unless something crazy happens. Because Nadu's tapped out, so I'm not worried about them being able to get through with like Beseju or something like that. They have no mana. Um, so at that point, I do that. I Lotus Petal a couple more times to get Brain Freeze, Brain Freeze for a really high Storm count. The Storm count is so high that off of the first cast of Brain Freeze with Storm, I have no cards left in my library, which I did not expect. Because that then precluded me from being able to cast Born Upon a Wind, because Born Upon a Wind makes you draw a card, which would have lost me the game. So I'm like, oh man, this is a little bit of a spicy meatball. How do I get Thoracle into play if I can't cast Born? And then I look through my hand and I'm like, oh, I have Savine's Reclamation and I can play it at flash speed. So to win the game with an empty library, I flash in Savine's Reclamation and get Thoracle into play that way without having to actually cast it. And no one has anything. I'm under a silence. I also have at that point flash speed and access to my entire deck. So GG's. That one was a spicy meatball.
Yeah, that was a crazy
So it's
game.
at least a little bit more interesting than Thoracle Win.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly a little bit more interesting than just like turn 2, like Thoracle Decon. Anybody have anything?
Yeah, yeah. So
But
how about you?
yeah, so
How's
that was my round 1.
yeah? It was a crazy game. How about you, Wayne? How'd your round 1 go?
Speaking of Thoracle Decon round 2, it was pretty, like, I don't want to say easy necessarily, but it was just one of those things where it was like random Esper deck. I can't remember who the commander was in seat 1. It's like that Sphinx, Scotty Dito, the other Esper Sphinx. It's like return
Uh
an artifact, something. It doesn't matter
oh
much.
Sharu the Hegemon.
uh,
Sure, yeah, that one.
Okay,
Right.
sure.
So that
Oh, I thought you were going to say Rafine.
No. It's the other one. Yeah, it's the other
The
one.
old school
Okay.
Gen 1 CEDH. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, yeah. Colin in second seat with Malcolm Timna. Some blue, like Sans blue. It was the Stranger Things kids is Warnog, but the Gruul one.
Mm.
Curtis, you know which
Uh,
one it is.
yeah. It's that one is the universes within is Elmar, and the Stranger Things one is Max.
Yeah. So that pairing, and then I'm sitting at four seat, get a pretty decent hand, and just as turn cycles go through, Colin's on a mold of five, and the other two kind of probably don't have any interaction. So I'm just like, all right, turn three, Grim, Zerta, and I think it was a Thran Spider getting me into the stuff. So it was just pretty simple. I was just like, oh, okay. Like, Esper deck over here has mana open, but I don't think they got anything, so I just jammed turn three and win. So it was pretty simple for turn one. So starting off the day pretty easily on that one.
Yeah, you did. You didn't even take like 10 minutes. I remember you like I like walked out, came back in, and you guys were packing up, and I'm like, oh, what happened here? And you're like, oh well, like all right, let's get a game in.
Yeah. That's just one of the many strengths of the deck. It's just rated win turn two, turn three on a regular basis.
Dang.
Yeah, I love
Dang.
that.
Too easy.
Sweet. So yeah, starting off hot. So
Well,
three people, 1-0.
Yeah. Well, I was 0-1. Oh yeah, you. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're by
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So round,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Body costs 5 points.
yeah.
Hard earned.
Easy. I mean, take the money if you get it, right?
Yeah,
round two for me. It was, let's see. Steve was on seat one, and Sisse. It was Joe seat two. He's playing Mad Farm. Normally he's our resident Kinnan guy, but he's on Jessica Timna. I was seat three, and then John was on Dehada. So it was two Mardu decks in the pod. Sisse goes first and drops a turn one Smothering Tithe. And that was pretty much the game right there. I want to say that other stuff happened in the game, but it almost didn't matter. I kept my hand was another sketchy hand that maybe I should have mulled down further, but I had land Chromox Tainted Pact, and so or like, two lands Chromox Tainted Pact. So my plan going in was I land, I Chromox, I Tainted Pact for Jeweled Lotus, and then I got Tivit turn two. So I wait until the end step of Joe's turn to cast my Tainted Pact, and Sisse counters it, like Force of Negations it, because he thought I was going for a cheeky Thoracle win. That I was going to exile all but like the top card of my library and then main phase Thoracle on my turn. I didn't even think about that, and that's something like a lesson learned on that. Like that I should have vocalized it and tried to like politic a little bit more and say, hey, I'm not going for a Thoracle win here. I'm just using it as a dirty tutor. Because in my mind that's what I was going to use it for. I was gonna go till I get the Jeweled Lotus, or maybe stop at Mana Crypt if I ended up going too far down my library and exiling everything. But that was my plan going in, and maybe it was a bad plan in retrospect. And if that, because that my whole hand was dependent on that Tainted Pact resolving, and that was the gamble I made in that game. And like I said, maybe I should have vocalized that and tried to politic him and say, hey, I'm not going for the Thoracle win. It didn't occur to me that was what was happening as far as like in their mind what they were thinking when they saw Tainted Pact. They thought cheeky Thoracle win. But then Sisse just had so much treasures that they were able to just dominate the board. At one point when Sisse was going for it, Joe cast a Adnaz and on the stack of a Sisse activation, and John Flare of Duplication his Adnaz on top. So both those players went for their Adnaz with the Sisse activation on the stack, and they still weren't able to stop Sisse from doing the thing. Somebody got like one piece of interaction, and it wasn't enough to make a difference at that point because Sisay had so much treasures and they were already. It was a Teferi. Sisay just hard cast Teferi because they had it in hand.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, Teferi, Time Raveler. So they were forced to interact at that point. That's when Joe dropped the Adnaz, and then the other guy Flare of Duplication did. Trying to get something rolling, and they're in Mardu, so already their interaction is kind of limited as far as what they're going to be able to do with a Teferi on the stack, and they weren't able to make anything come through, and Sisay won. So
yeah, they're just stopping those Sisay lines get like really weird.
Yeah. So
there's like certain.
Yeah.
That's how the deck's designed.
Yeah. It's yeah. How was your first round or your round 2, Kevin?
So round 2 was a bloodbath, to say the least. I was actually in a pod with Wayne. Yeah, so I'm sitting in seat 4. I'm not having a great day. Well, kind of. So seat 1 is actually some of the San Diego homies. They rolled through pretty deep. They showed up. Was it 9 or 10 deep? And they showed out. I think these guys did pretty well, but solid Magic players. But there was a what was it? Will on seat 1. I believe he was on
Talion.
He was on Talion. Yeah, so we're on control.
Which is like his like signature. He's pretty good.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you have to be a certain type of like player to be good at control, And then, seat 2, of course, he had a Wayne on Zerta. Classic Boros just kind of chilling on the side until it's time. And then seat 3 was one of the other San Diego homies. He was on what was it, Yoshimaru and Thrasios?
Yoshimaru Thrasios, yeah. Secret Commander Nadu.
Yeah, Nadu Secret. I've been seeing a lot of Secret Commander Nadu decks like left and right. I've even seen some of the Gila decks, but it's just Nadu. Nadu's a good card. And then you got me, seat 4, of course. Heliod.
Okay, to be fair, Wheeliod is terrifying. Out of all the CDH decks, every time I see Wheeliod, I'm just like, you kill Heliod or we're all dead. There's like, because you're not going to not draw cards, and that thing's just waiting. It's such a good deck.
The way it's designed, well, I think we talked it up in the Heliod Discord. We try to design it so that you only really need a discount of 3 or 4. If you have a discount of 6 and I'm throwing all these spells in the stack, I'm pushing. But usually I try to politic until it's time to kick off. When Heliod's transformed, that's when I shut off the politicking. That's when I'm just quiet, trying to push for game. That game
was brutal, though. That game was insane.
Yeah, it was rough. I think, what was it, a turn 1 Ristic off Talion? Right? Or was it turn 1 Talion? No, it was a turn 1 Ristic.
That game was 4 Dronjins, 3 to 4 Dronjins on everybody's board. At least 2 Dronjins on everybody's board, more or less. Yeah. And then...
Yeah, it was one of those. And I was I saw the Dronjins go off, but I remember having the mana to cast and flip Heliod, and I was like, I can't do this right now. If I do this right now, I'm just walking right into a counter spell. So naturally, I have to hold my hand up. And in my opener, I didn't really push for any turbo, knowing how I was going to be control heavy. I kept Cyclonic Rift and a counter spell. I was I'm just going to play it safe because it's with Talion on the field. It's just we're gonna draw this game out. Everybody had some sort of draw synergy out. Yoshimaru Thrasios tries to push literally 3 times in a row, walking into all the draw
over and over and over.
Yeah, constantly, and it was I can't blame you. In that position, I thought about pushing, but if I knew if I pushed, I was gonna get I was gonna get an over. I don't know how else to put it, but
there was 10 cards in everybody's hands, and I was telling him hey man, what, you're gonna push into this? No way, man, and he kept going.
What's funny is I didn't get a draw engine out until late in the game. I was able to get an Esper Sentinel out, and eventually I started drawing cards, Everybody was 2 people are going to draw cards. All right, you can draw a card, Yeah. Everybody eats type. But, yeah, it was... that game that ended up going into time on my turn. Yeah, so...
Pretty crazy. I saw the end of that game.
Oh, dude, I had everything I needed. All I was trying to do, I had plenty of mana. I was trying to cast Heliod, and of course Talion responds because Talion's a control player. He throws a counter spell out. Sure, I have some interaction, and I have a grip of cards in my hand at this point. somebody decides to crack a Ranger Captain because we were repeatedly exiling. I had a Ranger Captain out at some point, and I stopped Yoshi Thras, but you Wayne had an Agatha Soul Quadrant. And with an Agatha Soul Quadrant, if you tap it to exile Ranger Captain from my graveyard, you can put a +1 counter and then have the same ability many turns in a row. And that's pretty much what the game state was.
That's how part of the reason why the game was able to go so long, and the reason we were able to stop Yoshi Thrash so many times was people kept giving me spirits off of the Forbidden Orchard, so I just kept making them mini Ranger Captains. Just little mini Ranger Captains. It was intentional because we were like, what are we going to deal with this next push? What are we going to deal with this next push? And then yeah, I'm sitting there on like, man, like there's no window here. You just have to wait. I managed to find an E zone, so I just wait.
Yeah,
I just waited it out.
I saw the E zone out a long time ago, and you had the Ranger Captain activations. I was honestly terrified of what you had going on. Everybody else, like, it didn't really scare me. I knew they were going to get stopped. It was just a matter of you cracking your E zone. I think I remember bringing it up a few times of like, oh, you're not going to crack your E zone right now, dude. Like, you probably should. And so, yeah, so yeah, I put what was it? I think Kelia lands. I try to transform, and then on transformation, you sack Ranger Captain. Was that what I was?
Yeah. It was actually 2. So I sacked 1 in response to something, and then you tried to draw more cards or something, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Now I'll sack my Esper Sentinel / Ranger Captain in response to that. And we were talking the entire time, like, okay, yeah, let's draw. It's time to draw, so it's for fast time. And I didn't want to waste time because the judges sitting there. I was like, I'm going to push. And I was just waiting for the Ranger Captains to resolve downwards.
Yeah, with everything I had in my hand, I was able to push, but it was just like you just beat me on the stack. I didn't have flash speed at the time. Maybe you want to run Born Upon a Win back.
Response, maybe, because it was like you out on the stack, or it was about to flip, and it was just sack Ranger Captain, wait until those resolve, crack E zone. I think Grim directly into a Walking Ballista. I think. Like Grim Infinite Mana Walking Ballista, and just like those are my favorite games, though. To be fair, I love those.
What's funny is like the turn you try to like stop me, and the turn that you pushed, of course, mine. In my turn, I had 5 pieces of interaction. I think I had like a Fierce Guardianship. I had a Force of Will. I had a Flusterstorm. I had a Mind Break Trap. I had everything I needed to stop you, but no good. So I'm 1-1. Yeah, sitting 1-1. Round 2. Wayne sitting nice and spicy. And round 2 was spicy.
How about you, Curtis?
Scotty, how's round 2? Oh no, we talked about you. You talked about yours. I guess I'm last up to talk about round 2.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How did you?
So I had an awesome game round 1 with Scotty that we already talked about. That was pretty much the end of good things happening for me in this tournament. Round 2, the pod was me, Malcolm Tana, I think maybe another Nadu, and the Yoshimaru and Thras Secret Commander Nadu player. So we get into the game. I mulled to 5. I will say, other than the first game that I played with Scotty, this tournament was probably the worst variance I have seen from my deck in terms of mulligans, like, ever. Just wait until you hear some of the round 3 and round 4 stories.
I was there for round 4, but yeah.
So I somehow managed to do some like weird mull to 5 that gets me into a turn 2 Necropotence in this game, and by weird situation I mean like I turn 1 land Vamp Tutor for Necro, and then turn 2 I like cast a Chrome Mox and counter it with a offer you can't refuse to get 2 treasures to cast Necro, like that sort of situation, like not just a slick casual like Dark Writ Necro partied situation. Right. So I cast Necro. I do my typical, the way that I pilot Necro at least is I like to sculpt my first hand of it out of 10 to 12 cards. So whatever I'm at, I will pay the difference to get up to 12 cards is how much life I pay. Or if I have sometimes if I have like a big hand but like nothing helpful, I'll just pay like 10 and then just sculpt out of a larger selection of cards. But so I pay like 10, and upon the end step trigger, someone responds and Force of Vigors my Necropotence. And I'm just like, cool, like paying 7 life to draw 7 cards and like it goes away is like still pretty good. Like if there was, a sorcery that said like pay, 1 life X amounts of times, draw X amount of cards, and like discard them to exile, then you're like people would play that card,
Yeah.
So
It's
I'm
okay
like,
to grieve your necro, man. You don't have to copium about it. You can grieve that you didn't get the necro. It's okay.
so I'm just like cool, and I let it go. This I think is a little bit of a learning moment for me. I think that if the next time that someone tries to destroy my necro into that first end step, I think the correct response is to pay like an additional 5 life to be able to sculpt out of a larger set of cards.
Sure.
Which I did not do, but I wish that I had done subsequently, because upon looking at my necro pile, I did not run into any free interaction or like really any significant game plan of any kind. There was a fair amount of land in the pile and interaction that cost me on a cast, but not free interaction. So that was then. Malcolm Tana, who was in the pod, cast a turn 2 Rhystic Study. And as we were talking about in round 1, early Rhystic Study tends to be pretty good. So their first turn, they had Jeweled Lotus Malcolm. So they already have the Malcolm thing going, and then they have a Rhystic Study down. So they have some extra mana production. They have Rhystic Study for extra cards. Like, they're in a good spot. Let me look at my notes here. So then the turn cycle kind of goes around another time. I am kind of top decking, hoping for something cool. Nothing really is going on for me. And then on the following turn for Malcolm Tana, they just Court of Calling into a Glinthorn Buccaneer, and then swing and Glinthorn Malcolm doing the thing, and that was it. I think I threw out 1 counter for the Court of Calling, and they had something for it, and neither the Yoshimaru Thras player or I want to say it was Nadu, but I'm not totally confident on who the 4th deck was, had anything for it, and that was it. So that was my round 2. Barely eked out the necro to try to get something happening. Didn't quite get there. I think, as I was saying, lesson learned. If your necro is going to get hit right away, give it a little extra juice so you have a little bit more to play with, was my lesson from that round.
Yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
either way,
yeah, I did.
that even if you like, if because in this situation you hadn't seen your necro cards yet, right? They killed it.
Correct.
Yeah.
So in response to the cutting them in hand trigger. Yeah. So
yeah.
I had not seen them yet.
Yeah, I think in that instance you kind of have to. Whereas if they destroy it after you've seen the cards, like when you're in the discard phase, I think then you can at least look at the cards that you got and kind of evaluate if you got something good and are waiting till your next turn. But yeah, if you're just gonna get one look at your necro, I think you gotta I mean, obviously look at the board state and see what kind of creatures are going to punch you in the face the next turn. But I think you gotta go all in
absolutely.
at that point, especially if you're doing like what you did, where you're like, oh, I'm Chromoxing and I'm going to offer my Chromox because you're all in on that.
Yeah, that's an all-in plan.
Yeah. All right, so none of us had a good round 2.
I had all rounds.
Well, I guess.
Yeah, Wayne's 2-0 right now.
Oh, are you? Okay, right. Okay, so I mean, you didn't. I thought you guys went to a draw in that second round. No.
I was trying to push for the draw at that point, but Wayne was explaining that they were able to push for a win on top of the stack.
Gotcha.
So once Ranger Captain was sacked, the E zone was cracked, and then with the E zone cracked, you were able to, what was it, basalt, and then walking
Yeah,
ballistic the game.
I think Grim Zerda input mana assault, or no,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
I think it
Grim.
was just a straight walking ballista.
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah,
As
walking
a,
ballista was a clean win.
All right.
Yeah.
yeah, as a spectator for that game, that there had been a lot of win attempts put down, and
Yeah.
Wayne on his turn had basically left all of his mana untapped,
Mhm.
and then goes around. There's an attempt from the Rog Thras, I want to say, is in that.
Rod Thras, yeah,
Yoshi.
he gets
Yeah,
to like one life. Yeah, Yoshi Thras.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yoshi
Makes
thrust.
an attempt, gets stopped.
Mhm.
The attempt has gotten Kevin a grip of cards.
Yeah.
Kevin
Yeah.
goes for it with his grip of cards, gets stopped,
Yeah,
and
I think I forgot to mention that I had a smothering tithe out, and so in
Oh
attempt
yeah,
to use, yeah, I ended up landing a smothering tithe. I think that's, well, I don't remember. I think it might have been the turn prior,
Yeah.
but I
yeah,
got a few treasures, not a ton, and I flashed in a fairy mastermind in response to one of your ranger crafting cast sex, and so
right.
I just try to just keep, like, I go down a treasure draw card, maybe,
Yeah.
but yeah. So you're 2-0, you're sitting hot,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
how's
but it was
I might.
yeah.
I know
Yeah,
we're
Scotty, if it's okay, I might.
yeah
Yeah, go ahead, Scotty.
yeah I was gonna say I know you got to take off early, so if you want to give us a rundown of your round 3 and round 4 and any closing thoughts, I don't want to keep you.
Yeah. No. I wish I could be here longer. I was just making sure that everything gets taken care of. Yeah, I'll jump a little in the order here. I'll crack an E zone in turn order here. And just give you guys a round 3. But I'll let Curtis talk because I was there and barely did anything as well. So Curtis can let you guys know how round 4 went. I think round 4 was pretty simple. It was Esper deck, Duretti, Secret Nadu, Bird Tribal, with our friend Cody on there, me in third seat, and then Joe from your original round there, Scotty, on his Mardu, was it Tim Najeska.
Yeah.
Only real notable things is I had a real chance there. We were like turn 2, turn 3, really trying to go for a mix of a couple different wins and just got stopped by a bunch of like spot interaction from Duretti and Tim Najeska. Fun little tricks about like I think Joe swung at me with Magda thinking that I was safe, but I blocked with my range Stoneforge and tapped the Agathos to give it a +1/+1 counter. So we're combat tricks out here in CDH. And then with Magda in the graveyard, I was like, okay, cool. My Magda now. Dockside question mark and just attempted to win off of the charges off of that and it was fun. But I got stopped. And then Doretti ended up taking it overall. And Cody ended up actually taking that and taking it to the final 4. So it's really great for him and he's part of our usual pod. So we're proud of him out there. Shout out to you, man.
Mhm.
Um but yeah, it was pretty interesting. Like first 2 games win and then feeling pretty confident and just getting very, very close. I think we ended up top. Spoiler alerts. Round 4 doesn't go well for me either. Um, but we ended up top. I think 7th place. So pretty happy. Can't complain. We're kind of like trying to see how we can start breaching past the top 8 mark because that's pretty consistent now. But it was just super fun. Shout out to the Fire and Ice people.
Mm-hmm.
They're really, really cool. As weird as their online presence might be, their actual in-store running is pretty great. And yeah, there's no other things. Just can't wait for. But next one is that will hopefully we'll do another one of these for is Tapped Out next Sunday. Not this upcoming Sunday, but next Sunday, right? Is anyone else going to that one?
Is it Saturday or Sunday? If it's a Sunday, you plays there.
Yeah, we'll see.
I think I'm not able to make it to Tapped Out, unfortunately. But
yeah,
that's fair. Well, we'll know more one.
Yeah. I'm always last minute on this kind of thing. I usually know like the day before if I can go or not. But do you have any closing thoughts as far as your deck, cards you saw, cards you didn't see, cards you might put in, cards you might take out, cards you're thinking about?
Okay, so MVP for sure, Agatha Soul Cauldron. That thing was just repeatable Ranger Captains is beautiful.
That's
it's such a good piece.
Is that a recent include for you?
Oh, Agatha's has been in there since like for a couple months now. The Apple I'm still kind of is my flex spot right now. I'm testing out an Aether Vial instead. It's probably a mistake. It's probably too slow, but we're having fun with it right now. But yeah, we're still the list is about as strong as it's ever been. and we're really excited about it right now. Just feel like piloting stuff. We're brewing a few things. We're actually trying a few, trying out a Thai Joaquin deck coming up soon, so you guys might see that. But none of the other stuff is ready for tourneys like Zerta is. It's just happy, comfortable space. But yeah, hopefully we'll see more. I think anything else you need from me, Scotty?
I mean, anything that you wanna say. Thanks a lot for taking the time to come on with us and chop it up, and hopefully like this is something that we can keep doing. We'll definitely continue here in Wayne's absence. But yeah, thanks for coming on and good shit on the tournament. I think everybody was.
Oh yeah,
playing
congrats.
well, but yeah.
Yeah,
Are you gonna be
sounds
meeting
good.
up?
And yeah, next.
Are you meeting up tonight over at Paper Heroes or anything like that?
Yeah, I think it's Paper Heroes. We're gonna do it real casual. We're gonna like try out the new deck and just be like, hey, take a little like a week break. Let's her to rest for a minute and just to try something else, especially with Duskmorn coming up. The pingers in Duskmorn, it got me excited for a burn stacks variant. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
it gives you a
yeah,
break too.
I should also be at Paper Heroes, so I'll see you
Yeah.
there.
Sick. All right. Well,
Curtis, represent our ranger well, and just like the politics that happen there. So I'm counting on you to relay that to everyone else. Good stuff,
Yeah, it's
and
funny.
hopefully see you guys in like 2 weeks when the next tourney's up.
all right, man.
All right.
All right, thanks.
Well, yeah.
Man.
GG's, Wayne.
So
Later.
going into round 3.
Yeah.
I
So
got-
yeah. So
round 3. I'll just say mine
Round 3.
because I'm going into round 3 0-2, so I got the bye. So I sat in. There was some guys there that were
Easy.
playing some casual, and me and the other guy had the bye. Just played some casual games. And so I'll let you guys.
that's all bad. I mean,
So
it's
I got my free
Yeah.
win, but I was already looking at like I probably because it was a smaller tournament as far as the number the turnout was like 26, I think, something like that.
I think it was 29. Yeah, we're still
anyways,
short.
it
Oh, you know what?
was-
Yeah.
So either way, it was 4 rounds cut to top 4. So very hard to make it in with no semifinals. I pretty much had already counted myself out, but was in it to hang out and play the games and stuff like that. I was really hoping to actually just get a game in the third round, but I got the bye. So Curtis, what was your round 3, man?
I wish I had a bye round 3. I'll tell you that. Round 3, I had the wonderful experience of mulling to 2,
Oof.
which is and so I'm booked hand, and if we want to get a little more detailed, hands 7, 7, and 6 are like have lands and stuff, but there's no real game plan. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna mull to 5. Hands 5 through 3 have 0 mana sources of any kind.
Ooh.
Nothing.
Ooh.
So this was not even me being like, oh, my deck's more turbo now, I'm gonna be greedy on my mulligans. Like,
Right.
that was not what was going on. It was like literally like I had no choice. So I keep Badlands, Soul Ring is my 2 cards that I keep. So
Okay.
at least I have 3 mana. And proceed to draw into nothing but colorless mana sources, I should say. I think that when I lost the game on turn, I believe 4, my board state was Badlands, Soul Ring, Ancient Tomb. I have a Mana Crypt in my hand that I didn't cast because I was like, why lose the life if it's not going to do anything for me?
And feedback side, right?
Yeah, exactly. And a Grand Abolisher in my hand, which also is protecting the win that I have no semblance of. And I think it was just straight up. I mean, I was like so like checked out of this game that my notes are less detailed on this game than the other. But if I remember correctly, I think that it was just one player tutored once, and then on turn 3 or turn 4, just played a Thoracle win and had some protection for it, and that was it. I obviously really did not participate in that game in any functional way. So that was a rough one for me. Then like I was saying earlier, like some of the worst variants I've seen from my deck ever. Yeah, part of one of the luxuries of playing a 4-color pile is that it's more forgiving on mulligans than other decks, but not in this particular case.
Yeah, dang.
So
yeah,
Kevin, what happened to you round 3?
dude. So round 3 was pretty hot for me actually. I was in seat 2. Yeah, I actually got paired up with the homie Alec from San Diego. He used to do a bunch of streaming, but yeah, he kind of reps the tourney grinders out down in SoCal. Well, so more SoCal, right? Or SoCal, but yeah. Anyway, so he was on Tivit, and I kind of understand Tivit bullshit. You know what I mean? So I was like kind of happy that he was doing his own thing, but yeah. So he was seat 1. I was seat 2, keeping a turn 1 Esper, and a ton of lands and like a Swan Song. I just felt comfortable. I was happy. I think I had like a Chromox that I was able to pitch another card to and have the open interaction too. Oh no, that was round 4. So yeah, this one I was just had the round 1 Esper. So that same turn, I ended up drawing like a fish, but I played the Esper just to play cool. And then seat 3 was Nadu, and then seat 4 was Florine. And I believe this Nadu player was same thing with San Diego card, but I think you guys might have played him a few, like maybe once or twice. No, not once. Yeah, I think one of you guys played against that Nadu. Anyways, I played the turn 1 Esper. Turn 1 Esper gets fed maybe a few times, like 2 times. I dropped the fish turn 2, so I have Esper fish, and then everybody's just feeding me cards. Nadu's not in the greatest spot. He ends up dropping like a Jewel Lotus into cast Nadu, and then he tried to cast Lightning Greaves. No, he drops a Shuko. I actually could have stopped the Shuko, but I was trying to force the Esper player to kind of interact. I mean, he wasn't in the greatest spot. He had 2 lands at Nadu and like that and the Shuko. So you got the 2 activations. Got a few cards deep, but didn't make anything impactful. So I'm right there just feeding off it. Next turn you have Florian, and then Florian's just feeding me too. And then by turn 3, Tivit's all worried because he's like, "Oh, okay, like I should play it cool. I'm not gonna try to do anything stupid because you guys already fed him." So I hit to my turn 3. I don't pay for fish, but I get a Smothering Titan with backup. I think I had a Force of Will in hand, and that game was just like smooth. I was just making treasures. I was drawing. I was able to get the fish back my turn 4, cast Helia, transform them, and eventually push with the Hull Breaker win. So I'm sitting technically 2-1. Yeah, 2-1.
Cool.
So it was a little bit more forgiving. You talk. Oh, you got the bye, right, Scott?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead into your round 4. Yeah.
Round 4, we don't want to talk about that. It was pretty bad. I was in a bad spot, dude. I was like, I was seat 3. I'm sitting high. I'm in 5th slot. No. I was in 2nd seat. No, I wasn't in 2nd seat. I think I was in 5th. And it's a small tournament, so nothing crazy. But I get paired up with seat 1 Sisse, seat 2 Tyam, seat 3 me, and then seat 4 Tyam.
Oof.
So the double Tyam pairing is just terrible.
Staxy.
Yeah. Oh, it's super staxy. I mean, Sisse is like kind of worried, but not really. Sisse can work around stacks. They don't care about rule laws if you're not casting a spell to win. Yeah, you're typically doing like Dockside loops or Derevi loops or just stuff to activate Sisse. But I was not having the greatest time, homie. Like it was just real bad. Like I said, the deck capitalizes when there's a blue farm out, when there's somebody out trying to draw cards. Tyam does not want to draw cards at all. Like they can start. Tyam can start their turn without drawing a card and still perform great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the game ended up going in a time. I tried offering a draw about like 30 minutes left on the clock. The Tyam players declined, of course, and by the time we hit time, the by the time we hit time, right? Uh, they couldn't push for game, so we just ended up agreeing for a draw, and that's just solidified me the seat 5 spot and didn't make top 4.
Dang.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2-1-1, homie.
I can't believe in a pot
Yeah,
of 2
I've been
tie-ams that
close.
it went to a draw.
Yeah, I know. Who would have thought? Yeah, because what's funny is
I feel like
the funniest part
feel like
was
you
that
just
like
sit down
one of
at
the
that table and you just say, "Are we all good with a draw here?" Because like 2 tie-ams, like
that's basically what I said. Yeah,
yeah.
dude. Yeah, it's funny because one tie-in player stacks up the other tie-in player, and then the other tie-in player stacks up the other one. So I was like,
That's
we can't
crazy.
really do we can't do shit here. Like we're stuck.
Yeah.
I'm stuck in this hellhole. Get me
Yeah.
out of here.
What's up? What's
Yeah,
up?
it was bad.
Samurai Dance Rules checking in. He's our buddy. He won the Mox Masters Invitational with Malcolm Kedis, I believe. Malcolm Kedis, yeah.
Malcolm Kedis.
Yeah.
That's
Good
hot.
deck. We like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Top
Yeah,
notch.
that's a really good deck.
Yeah. Top notch player.
Yeah,
Good
it's
dude.
a
Thanks for joining our little tournament report here. We're in our 4th round. My 4th round, I'm going in. I'm 1-2. My 1 win is a bye, so I'm riding high.
Malcolm Kedis. That's
So I'm thinking
Sorry.
sorry. I'm thinking if I win the round, there's a slight chance I make it, but probably not. But I'm gonna try to win. Everybody else at the table, so I get the first seat again, which is hot, and I'm super appreciative of that. Turn 2, Jorge's on.
It's super hot.
Jorge's on the other Stranger Things pair. The bad Stranger Things pair, I think we want to say, right? I don't know what that deck's trying to do. It's the Will and
Elmar, Max.
Will, whatever the other pairing is. Seat 3 is Crom Rayhan. And seat 4 is Steve, who was on Sisse in my round 2. I'm going first, and I don't remember exactly what I kept for my hand, but I had a decent hand going in. Just started. I was able to get out a Tivit fairly early. I think off of a Mana Vault. Either a Mana Vault or a Grim Model. I think it was a Mana Vault. I was able to get a pretty early Tivit off. And the Stranger Things pair casts the Diabolic Intent to try to tutor, and I flash in my Oppo agent. No response from the table. I take his dockside. I assume he was going for the dockside. The dockside wasn't going to be huge, but especially if I cast it, it wasn't going to be huge because I think I had the most artifacts. But it was more me, denying him the dockside, getting it out so it wasn't on the table, and also it's that stacks piece that Sisse has to deal with. So he's shut down. Crom Rayhan is doing stuff, but they're not really able to get anything going. And then Sisse goes to their turn, and they've got Sisse out, but they can't do anything because I've got my Oppo out. But they play a dockside anyways, and I've got 2 treasures open, and the 2 cards in my hand are Swords to Plowshares and Enlightened Tutor. And so they cast their dockside, and this was like a real turning point of me trying to figure out what am I gonna be able to do here to interact with them, because I was afraid to cast the Swords to Plowshares that they might have a deflecting SWAT and they would just deflect it to the opposition agent, and then
Gotcha.
then the Sisse is unlocked. And then but I was also just afraid to do nothing, so I cracked the 2 treasures, float the 2 white to see what they're gonna do. They decide to move to combat to get rid of my floating mana, I use 1 white and I cast the Enlightened Tutor. There's no response to that. I'm like, well, fuck it. I'm just going to put the Time Sieve on top. If I somehow get out of this turn, I've got my win on top. And I debate whether or not I'm going to cast it Swords to Plowshares to get rid of either Sisay or Dockside, just because I was worried that they might have a Dockside loop in hand, because they still had like they still had 2 cards in hand. And so if they have removal, or if they have like a Dockside loop with removal or a draw engine or something, they might still be able to win here. And I really debated whether or not I was going to cast that Swords to Plowshares, but I was just like, man, I'm feeling in my gut like a deflecting SWAT, and so I'm like, I'm not going to cast it, and so I decided not to cast it. They move through combat, second main phase, drop a Thassa's Oracle, and I'm like, oh, they just like totally out of left field, going for the Thassa's Oracle, and I got nothing in my hand to deal with the Thassa's Oracle. I pass on Thassa's Oracle. Then they play Demonic Consultation, and Crom Rayhan has a mental misstep for their consultation. And
God bless.
Hits their consultation. They've got nothing else. Pass the turn to me. I untap, draw my Time Sieve, slam the Time Sieve, and that's the game. Everybody else was out of interaction at that point. They ended up not having a deflecting SWAT or anything like that, but man, I was just like, there's no way, no way I'm
well, you gotta hold off on the interaction.
Well, so that was the thing.
I like the idea.
That was my only mana, and in retrospect, what I should have done is I should have only cracked 1 treasure and given them the 1 extra treasure, because they had enough for a Sisay activation anyways, but I was worried about them having enough mana for a removal spell and a Sisay activation. It was just so many things, and I was just hedging my bets against them.
Yeah.
And it worked out because they were going for the cheeky Thoracle win anyway. So it in the end didn't matter. But I think in retrospect, I still think I made the right play, just because the deflecting SWAT being so prevalent. But
very easily could have mattered.
Yeah. And so,
I think.
Yeah, so I came, so I came out. I was 2-0, and 10 points wasn't enough to get me into the top 4. But if
it's all good.
If it had been got to top 10, then I would have made the top 10, and I would have been in the semis. But so what happened with you, Curtis, in your last round there?
So I was paired up with Wayne, which I was like, this is cool, because Wayne was in the number 1 seat at this point, because he was 2-0 at that point. I think, it was 2-1, or 2-0.
I think he was 2-1.
So he was number 1. So I was like, cool, if I win this pod, I have the best breakers of anyone who's going to have 10 points going into top 4. So this is a pretty cool situation. Wayne is seat 1, I'm seat 2, Nadu is seat 3, and then there's a Tivit player in seat 4. So I have to mold a 5. My 5 isn't great. I think I end up keeping something that's like Mox Diamond and 2 lands and a Lotho, and then like 1 piece of interaction. So I'm hoping that like Lotho's gonna like ramp me up in mana, because I'm getting it down turn 1, seat 2, and then hopefully we draw into something. I think I, in hindsight, maybe would have molded to 4 on that rather than staying at 5. I think I was a little hesitant to mold to 4, having molded to 2 in the previous round. So
I got you a little gunshot.
My deck does pretty comfortably mold to 4, so I maybe should have done that. But that's what I ended up keeping. Wayne goes first, plays land and like a rock or an Esper Sentinel or something, like not something super crazy, just kind of sets himself up a little bit. I do my Mox Diamond land Lotho thing, pass. Nadu, I think just goes like land Birds of Paradise pass, super standard Nadu start, nothing crazy. And then Tivit, um, I don't remember Tivit's early games, but like nothing crazy. Sets up some artifact mana,
Hmm.
typical Tivit start, but nothing wild. Turn two, Wayne gets Wayne's first play was the Aether Vial that we were talking about, actually,
Mm.
is what it was. So um, he uses he plays land. He gets the Aether Vial, uh, gets either Goblin Welder or Goblin Engineer into play, and he puts the Basalt in the yard,
Mm.
and one of his lands is a Urza Saga. Um, this will be relevant in a minute to why of that land specifically. Uh, and so I see that and see the basalt hit the yard, and I alert the other players as being someone who's more familiar with Wayne's deck. Like, hey, look out! Like, if he gets another land drop here, and is able to get Zerta next turn and Welder the basalt back into play, we're in trouble. And both of them I don't think have ever played against Wayne or played against Deserta build based on their reactions. The both of them are I'm just giving them a heads up of like just look out for this. Not like DEFCON 1, let's like all lose our shit, but just like be aware of this.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Yeah, it's the thing
then
about Boros stacks. It's very hard to like kind of know. Typically, only the Boros players knows what's going on, unless you're
right.
like familiar. Yeah.
So that's what I am trying to say. I'm not really trying to politic them and doing anything crazy. I'm just saying, letting you know, if this continues to go this way, there's a
Yeah.
semi decent chance that Wayne can put a win attempt on going on next turn.
Yeah,
Uh,
you're putting on your cape and playing Captain Hindsight. Yeah,
yeah.
I love playing that.
So Nadu goes totally freaks out about this and immediately plays a Force of Vigor and destroys both Wayne's Urza Saga and his Deafening Silence.
Oof.
So Wayne gets completely blown out of this game. Like Wayne is like got I would say a third to half of his win condition, pre-win condition set up, and is working on getting the rest of it going, and has successfully slowed down the game with his Deafening Silence. Like Wayne's in a good position, and then all of a sudden it's like shorted on mana, no longer has his stacks piece, is in a rough place.
And
Nadu
doesn't
then
have his
proceeds,
like incoming tutor of the Urza Saga, which is big.
or that, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah. So Nadu does that, and then plays either a Shuko or a Greaves, and has Nadu and the Birds of Paradise or whatever their dork was they played on the first turn. I at this time have managed to get Lucas/Bjorna out on the field and have the Mox Diamond, and seeing the Nadu win about to be unlocked. And I had played a few extra lands, so I'm not like completely screwing myself for mana by sacrificing the Mox Diamond here. But in response to the cast of Nadu, uh, then since he played the Greaves or Shuko, whatever he got first, and then was playing Nadu afterward. Nadu wasn't out yet. So in response to the cast of Nadu, I use Lucas's activated ability to ping down the birds. I'm now remembering very specifically that it was Greaves, because I was remembering that because you can't double target with Greaves with the equip, that it was the difference between 4 Nadu triggers if he had 2 creatures, or just 1 if he had the just Nadu. So I do that to make sure Nadu isn't just going to go crazy right there. And then so that takes Nadu off. Tivit, who had been sitting there with their, likely a grip full of counter spells, and has a little bit of artifact mana set up, playing classic mid range pile. Immediately draws into without tutoring, nothing. Like is like Jeweled Lotus, Tivit, and then swings, and then on swing, like cracks clue after in second main, gets a clone, casts it, clones Tivit, uh, then I think it has enough mana to crack a clue, and then look at their card. Their card is another clone of Tivit. They get Tivit 3, uh, and then are able to clue crack, hit time sieve, have enough artifacts, party. So and at this juncture, I was just like, I don't have anything for this. Nadu had tapped out for Nadu when they were expecting to have 4 triggers and get some lands and draw into some things, but I had me pinging the birds, kind of caught them off guard. So they don't have anything, and Wayne got so severely blown out by the Force of Vigor that Wayne doesn't have anything. So that's kind of it. I mean, I think if there's any takeaways for me, I think maybe there should have been a discussion about the Force of Vigor. I don't know if it would have made a difference. I think Nadu was still. I think Nadu had. I think I could have told Nadu, hey, if you get rid of that Deafening Silence and you try to Nadu right now, I will ping your Birds of Paradise, and you're only going to get 1 trigger here. You're not going to get the 4 that you think you're going to get. So like. Do you want me to ping down birds, or do you want to maybe not completely blow Wayne out of the game here? I don't know if that would have worked. To be honest, I think he probably still would have hit the Deafening Silence. I think he probably still just wanted the Deafening Silence gone so he could get his own game plan going.
Yeah, I guess he could have politicked at that point to make what is it to make Tivit a little bit more threatening. Just to have the interaction for a time sieve. But yeah, I mean, you said it yourself. It was at that point they probably had a grip of counter spells or something, or they just kind of guaranteeing that they're not going to be able to push for game, letting them that know. The thing with Nadu is you never know. They're just ripping cards off the top and they don't know what they're going to get.
Absolutely, and at this point, because the Deafening Silence has been down for 2 or 3 turns, Tivit has their land drops per turn and maybe 2 to 3 extra mana from artifacts total. They don't have anything super crazy. They top decked the Jeweled Lotus that allowed them to get Tivit out and do the thing. They had not tutored. They had not done anything to draw any extra cards. So Tivit is on tempo for mana, maybe 1 or 2 ahead of tempo, but doesn't look like they're doing anything super crazy. And then just Jeweled Lotus Tivit really kind of comes out of nowhere with that win. Tivit, great deck. We like Tivit a lot, especially in this pod of people. But Tivit isn't usually a deck that comes out of nowhere. Tivit is a great deck, but usually Tivit Tivit knows that you see it coming, and that's why it plays such a great mid-range control game plan, because it knows that what it's doing is not going to be some wow, where did that come from?
Yeah, and that's the thing with the deck that I've been kind of struggling with, is because it is now obviously it's a very known deck, and it is a pretty straightforward game plan. It's your all your Esper good stuff of card draw and Smothering Tithe and tutors and counter spells and time sieve, and it's just kind of get value, use the counter spells to stop the other wins or to protect your own win, slam Tivit, slam time sieve, and go for the win. And there's no quirky Underworld Breach kind of things. There's no Born Upon a Wind kind of things. And so I've been thinking about do I run Born Upon a Wind? Do I run the Valley Flood Caller? Because with a Valley Flood Caller, I can Demonic Tutor at instant speed, and then I can play the Time Sieve at instant speed, and I can do that in somebody's end step, and then just take the next turn and start to win that way. It's I don't get the win on the stack like a Breach kind of line. I mean, conceivably, I guess there's still that way to do the kind of Thoracle if you're Savine's Reclamation or something like that. But one of my favorite cards in the deck is the Whir of Invention, and I love that card because I could win can win on the stack. Like I said, it's not a straight win because I still have to take my extra turns, but it's a way for me to my fun trick is sacking the ranger captain or casting the silence or something like that in somebody else's turn to stop them from winning, and then in their end step I cast my Word of Invention because it's protected. And I like that because that's the only way I have of like instant speed getting out the time sieve and going for a win. And so trying to like find other ways to do that, and maybe it's something like a Valley Flood Caller or a Born Upon Wind or something like that. I don't know.
Sure. I mean, another play in Tivit specifically that I think is really strong and enabled by either one of those cards is flashing in with either Valley Flood Caller or Burn Upon a Wind, the 3 fairy on end step. Because if that 3 fairy lands, then they can't interact with anything from that point
Yeah.
onward, which is
Yeah.
pretty cool. And then the other thing is that if you want to, it does after that 3 fairy lands, then when it gets back to your turn, then you can do the 3 fairy kitten line and just do the whole thing.
Sure.
Obviously you can't do it during the end step because you can't activate the loyalty ability of the 3 fairy on someone else's turn. But
Right.
it does allow you to get a silence effect that sticks around through your turn on someone else's turn, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah. And I
Yeah, it
think
gives you full control.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're seeing here, like in the current meta, because now we've got Born Upon a Wind, we got Valley Flood Caller, we have like some decks are even playing the ley line, and decks like Kevin's that his whole deck is winning on the stack anyways, and decks like Tyam that are trying to win on the stack. That and we've had Magda's still always a player, Kinnon's always a player, and like all these decks have this ability to win on the stack, and Tivit is stuck trying to win at sorcery speed, which it still has the power to do that, but it's definitely a limiting factor in that having that ability.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a fan of the Flood Caller. The whole reason, I mean, regardless of Tivit being Kit Tivit, you win with Oracle. Like that's basically it. I mean, you do go to combat, but even in times where you can't really get through sometimes, all it takes is the tutor or something like that to really get the win.
Oh, for me?
So I'm a fan of the Flood Caller. What's up?
For
Like
Tivit? Or
Yeah.
no,
Well, no, not. I'm just saying for the deck.
Oh yeah, I mean, Tivit,
Yeah.
like I very rarely win with Thassa's Oracle on Tivit. I'd say probably
Gotcha.
eight or 9 out of 10 wins for my deck are through Tivit time Civ combo, which is just killing everybody with a commander damage. Every once in a while,
that's fair.
I'll get to the Thorical line, and I'll be able to do that, but it's really that backup of like the Hullbreaker horror outlet kind of thing, something like that. Or
Yeah, it's fair.
Or like Kitten, Kitten Teferi, something like that. But even
Mhm.
that, it's like sometimes it's easier to just get the time save and take the extra turns and do that. The only time is when I'm when it's like it's like the end of the round, and so I just have to if time is out and it's my turn, I've got to win with Thoracle because I have no other there's no other instant win obviously in the game that anybody plays. But so yeah, I mean,
That's fair.
that's kind of my thoughts coming away from the tournament is like maybe I try some of these instant win things, and also I feel like those first 2 rounds I had okay hands that had a game plan, but I felt like, especially in round 1 going first, I felt like I could have mulliganed because that was my first 7. I could have mulliganed down to 5 if I needed to, because Tivit does mulligan pretty well because it has a lot of tutors and a lot of like the cheap engines, obviously Mystic and Esper Sentinel and Lotho and stuff like that I can get out turn 1 to start getting advantage, or drop some big mana rocks to get turn 2 Tivit or something like that. And I felt like I was playing it safe in those first 2 rounds and kept okay hands that had a solid plan, but not a great plan, and I could have been a little riskier. I think round 2 was tough because that turn 1 Smothering Tithe. The only thing that would have been different is if I had mulligan to a hand that had a Mind Break Trap or Force of Will or Force of Negation or something of that nature, then I could have stopped that from happening. But I didn't. So I think that for me is when I'm playing casual, it's so much easier to take that risky hand because you feel like there's nothing at stake. And then when you're there in the tournament, you're like, oh, well, this is an okay hand at 7. I don't want a chance going to another 7 that's bad. And then I'm down to 6 and then I'm down to 5. And then, like you're like you had that one where you're down to like 3 or 4 and you're like,
yeah, or down to 2. Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, I'm just gonna take the safe 7 because it's at least a good hand and I know I can do something. And sometimes I do better with Tivit, with the hands that are okay hands, where I just kind of sit back and I slowly do stuff and I let people try to win and interact, and then I play my stuff and win. But I felt like I could have.
Very pod dependent, I feel like.
Yeah, I could have been a little riskier, especially knowing that like Nadu and Tayam were in the pod, like taking a hand that was a little riskier to try to beat you and Nadu to the punch and also beat Tayam before like a bad stacks thing got out, like try to like something that, because I was going first, so I had the opportunity to like drop a whole lot of mana rocks before the once a turn effect comes into play or something like that, knowing that they're going to play either some kind of deafening silence or collector oof or something like that. They're probably going to drop something turn 1 that's gonna try to stacks the board out, but
like a real lot type effect.
Yeah. And in that game in particular, we're just talking about like mulligan philosophy. Scotty and I play together a lot. Obviously, we're on the same team, so I know that Scotty knows that my deck is faster than his deck, and I know that he knows that if I see Tayam, that my game plan is probably going to be to turbo in front of Tayam, which tells me that like Scotty's going to probably try to keep a hand that has a Force of Will or something like that to stop me from being able to just slam a Necropotence. So in that game, instead of mulling for the Necro fast plan, I'm like, I'm gonna mold for a draw engine and make sure that it gets down. So I mulled for the Ristic. I didn't cast it until I had enough mana to cast the Ristic and defend the cast. And I play I think a turn 2 Ristic in that game. And then instantly there's Scotty's Force of Will, and I'm like, glad I did not try to jam a Necro with no backup here, because that would not have worked. And I said to Scotty, or sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, and that was part of my hand. It was just like, okay, I kept like what I felt was a solid hand with the Force of Will to stop any shenanigans from somebody trying to do something too quick, as opposed to like and I had the mana drain, and it was like, okay, I'm a little bit slower, and I'm gonna kind of try to stop a win or stop an early Ristic or something like that, and then I have my game plan a little bit later instead of me just like hitting the gas and no brakes, which maybe I made the right call, maybe I didn't, I don't know. I mean, if that Force of Will resolved and it countered your Ristic Study, and then that next turn I mana drain the Nadu, I think that could have been my game. But it could have just as easily been Tayam's game, because I stopped them, and Tayam Tayam was on the verge of going off and winning too. I mean, they had a turn where they got to activate Tayam twice. They weren't very good flips for Tayam. They didn't hit anything that allowed them to keep rolling. So
yeah. In that game also, just in regards to Tayam and just thinking about the game and stuff like that, my 2 philosophies, if I run into that pod, are going to be, 1, like I said, turbo in front. But 2, if I know someone who's a good mid-range player like Scotty is in the pod, I know that turbo in front is not going to resolve unless it's defended. And getting the mana to turbo that early and have backup for it is really difficult. So that's why I mold for the draw engine and that sort of thing, because at that point, my philosophy is Scotty has enough control and experience of knowing when to use his interaction and stuff like that that I'm gonna have some help here as far as like either Nadu or Tyam doing anything too crazy. And then on top of that, I know that all I have to do is wait for either Scotty or Nadu to remove Tyam's stacks, and then I'm gonna have more gas and more speed than either of them. I'm gonna be able to just go off. And so then when we got to the mid game and it had been a few turns under Tyam's stacks, Tyam's starting to develop a board state. I had Bowmasters down for a few turns even before I played the wheel, so I had been picking off Tyam's board. So Tyam couldn't ever really get the big Tyam board that it needs to do the thing, because every time it started to, get a little bit bigger or whatever, then I would ping down 2 creatures with the Bowmasters and keep them under control. And I was like, I just need to sit here and keep drawing cards and doing my thing. And then it got to the point where I was like, I have the nuts in my hand. And I know that Nadu is in a tough spot right now, and that Tyam might be able to close this game out, but maybe not. But the player who's going to be a problem for me and interact with me when I try to push here is Scotty. So even though Scotty is not really trying to win the game, he's the one who's going to also make sure that I'm not going to win the game. So I was like, I'm going to kill Scotty. Nadu's going to remove the stacks from Tyam, and then I'm going to go. And, like, literally, I cast the wheel, killed Scotty, passed the turn, and, like, that following turn, Nadu removes the stacks, and I'm like, boom, ad nos, let's party. It was, exactly what happened.
Yeah, and your knowledge of the rules helped you out there, too, because what had happened in that turn, when it was my turn, I used...
Oh, this is true. Yeah, this is an interesting judge call.
So I turned, because he had the Shuko equipped to... Was it a bird? What did he have?
Yeah, I want to say, Birds of Paradise. Or no, to the Polywog Prodigy to buff it, so that way it would draw cards.
Which was big for him in two ways, right? So what I did was I used Karn, and instead of just targeting nothing, I turned the Shuko into a creature, which bumped the Shuko off of the Polywog, but also made it a legitimate target for the Bowmasters to shoot it down. Curtis kills me, but since it's my turn, then it's Curtis, and then it's Nadu. It's Curtis's turn. I'm dead, but how the rules work with Karn's ability, even though I'm knocked out of the game, that Shuko is still a creature until what would be my turn. What's that called? It's like an attached trigger ability. Yeah, timestamp or whatever. Like that hangs on.
Yeah.
Even after I'm removed from the game, which was a huge deal, because then you were able to ping it with the Bowmasters, and that forced, I think, because that forced Tyam to get rid of the stacks piece, or it forced Nadu to try to get rid of the stacks piece, because they could have just cast Nadu and just moved the Shuko back and forth and gotten a whole bunch of things and kind of gone off from there. But they needed to cast Lightning Greaves or whatever they had.
Right.
They needed something else. That was a big thing there, a little rulesy kind of thing. But I feel like we should start...
get rid of their enabler.
Yeah, but I think we should start closing it out. Do you have any ending thoughts, Kevin, about your deck, about cards to put in, cards to take out, or your thoughts on your mulligans or your plays on the day?
As far as that goes, I mean, I just need to find... the only troubles I find are, like, trying to climb out of, like, little areas where, like, in that time situation, I can't really do much. Like, I had a flipped Heliod, I had everything I needed, I had Prosperity, I had a lot. But, overall, I'm pretty happy with the deck. I mean, I ended up 2-1, which isn't bad, but, yeah, like, assuming it was a bigger tournament, I might have maybe done some more damage. But, yeah, I'm happy with the deck, and I'm happy to go to the next tournament, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you were tied in record to the 4th seat. You just didn't have as good breakers, so you were sitting at 5th seat. So I mean, you were right there. It was just unfortunately the tournament was small enough that there
Hmm.
wasn't like a semifinals. So did you have anything
Yeah, one
else?
of the time players.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so yeah, one of the time players in our pod was actually 0-2-1.
Oh,
So that did affect my breakers. Yeah, the one of the other time player was 2 wins and 2 losses. Oh yeah, 2 wins and a loss. Sorry. And yeah, so that affected our breakers. I tried to offer the draw before, but I thinking about it, or I rescinded it. I just didn't make sense.
yeah,
I had to push for game.
yeah,
That fourth player made us play it out.
yeah, yeah. So
Essentially.
you have any closing
Yeah.
thoughts, Curtis, about your deck, about cards, about anything else?
Um, well, my cards that I have been trying to test for the last week, which I was mentioning, I don't sure if we had gone live yet at that point earlier, are Necrodominance and Chance for Glory,
Mm-hmm.
and Valley Flood Caller, beefing up the Necro package and stuff like that. And I've sort of been going back and forth on my deck of like, do I go full tilt of like even cutting something like opposition agent because like you only want to play cards that you want to see in your Nas or you want to see in your necropile, and then otherwise they have to be like really top tier like Aristic Study or something for you to include them otherwise? Or do you want the deck to be a little bit more balanced and not quite leaning so hard into that turbo plan? None of those cards came up for me at all at any point during the tournament, so I didn't really get to test them. But I would like, and like I was saying earlier, it's hard to test cards where they're there for redundancy because often you see them at the same time that you see the card that they are a redundancy of.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's a little tough. So I still need more time to test that out. I obviously had some pretty harsh mulligan luck, which is, we play in a singleton format with 100 cards in our deck. There's variance, and sometimes that sucks.
yeah.
As far as things that were under my control, that I would have done differently, I think definitely if someone tries to hit my necro like on the first turn, paying extra life into it to get a wider set of cards to choose from, I think that could have changed the result of that game pretty significantly. And then also just I think a lot of people talk about this, but like the California meta is pretty fast, and there's less politics in it than there is in maybe the Ohio meta or the East Coast meta, certainly than the European meta. And so there's this attitude of kind of like cast spells first, ask questions later, and uh, like knowing when to like slow someone down and have a conversation. So like in that game with Wayne in round four, saying like, hey, like maybe you don't want to take Wayne completely out of the game because
Mm-hmm.
Tivit's got a decent amount of mana and we don't really know what they're doing over there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Learning where to have to recognize those things and then like in the moment, don't be like, wow, that's kind of a hasty play. Like in the moment, be in your head, in the
Yeah, yeah.
moment, be like,
Mm-hmm.
hey man, like you sure you want to do that?
Yeah,
Have those conversations because just watching someone make a hasty play and not saying anything and just
mm-hmm.
kind of thinking that to yourself, you're still at the mercy of the consequences of that play in the pod.
Yeah.
Versus if you can, be present and have the wherewithal to say that and say it politely and get that player to listen to you. I think that's a big reason why, a player like Comedian, who's obviously like known for his politics, is so consistent, is
Yeah, yeah,
because they're able to have those conversations and not necessarily suffer losses at the hands of other players making less than optimal plays.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And for me, like I
So
said, I had that one tainted pact play where if I had been just like, hey, this is a tainted pact, not like in my head, not thinking that like, oh, that's like wee 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 wee, someone casts a tainted pact, and so maybe be like, hey, this is a demonic tutor that I'm doing here. That's a bad demonic tutor or whatever,
yeah.
But yeah. So well, cool. Thanks for
Yeah.
thanks guys for coming on and for taking notes, and hopefully this is something that we can keep going, keep doing. Thanks y'all for tuning in and watching. This is gonna go up, and so you might be watching this later. If this is the kind of stuff that you want to see us keep doing, let us know and we'll keep doing it. Again, all the links to the the deck lists are down there. And we got some new episodes coming out with Alan from Mental Misplay, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, so rock on, and keep grinding out there, folks, and take care. Oh shit. Curtis,
I
Curtis,
didn't realize
Curtis didn't have to do that. My mind doesn't do that.
Again? That was sick.
That was sick.
How do I get that to happen again?
I don't know. All right, you guys.